Excellent. So the first one we're going to do is obviously we're going to call to order. Then we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. So let's see what time it is.
6:02.
Okay. So we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't have the flag picture, but I'm going to put the camera on the flag right there. So.
Hey, Kimberly, can you lead us in the pledge?
Certainly. Ready?
Ready.
Right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Indivisible.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't put in those two words.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Unbelievable.
So the next step is we have to approve of the agenda. I do want to make one comment is if you look at the, first of all, I'm glad everyone got the correct Zoom URL. Hopefully David Morrell did. That was a internal mess up. So hopefully he does see that because he said he was going to be here tonight.
Don't we need to do roll call first?
Oh, yes, thank you. But in that vein, on the agenda page, this is sort of a formatted one, and it still has Jack Wagner on there, and that shouldn't be on there. And then obviously we're going to be introduced to the newest member here in a couple minutes. So we'll go ahead and do a roll call. So Commissioner Alabak.
Present.
Commissioner Blattner.
Here.
Funky. I can see that she's here.
You need to unmute the phone.
The phone.
Yeah, Travis, you're up on the screen twice. One says you're muted and one says you're not muted. There, that seems to be taking care of it.
So every time I talk, it echoes. Commissioner Morrell. And hopefully I pronounced this right. Youth Representative Commissioner Antenen. Is that correct?
It's Antenen, but it was close. Present.
Okay, so now we have to go ahead and approve of the agenda. Wait a minute, I forgot. Matt, you have to do your,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so just for everybody's information, this is a fully virtual CSEC meeting, so I appreciate everyone's patience as we navigate this new normal. There have been some situations where meetings have been hacked or what is being called Zoom bombed. Staff has taken all possible efforts to ensure that this does not happen. However, in the event that it should, the city sustainability coordinator will stop the video stream/TV broadcast immediately. If the meeting is able to continue, the stream/broadcast will be reinitiated. If it is not able to reinitiate, the meeting will end and all matters that have not been considered will be postponed to a later date. Each member of the CSEC and staff members will be participating in the meeting from their home or office. They all have families, pets, or roommates. In order to be respectful of their private spaces, commission members may turn off their video, but they are still listening and participating. If a commissioner member leaves the meeting, they will let the chair or city sustainability coordinator know, and that will be noted. And I think the rest of the information about how to do public comments on Zoom or phone are all in the agenda, so I don't know if I need to read all of that. You're muted again, Travis.
Okay, sorry. Now we need to have the approval of tonight's agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
And I second it.
All in favor?
Okay. So, okay, great.
Excuse me, Travis?
Mm-hmm.
You'll want to do a roll call vote for all motions, please.
That one, okay, yeah.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes, you do. You should. There should be 4. Yes, there's a quorum. Commissioner Alabak on the approval of the minutes.
Aye.
Commissioner Blattner.
Aye.
Commissioner Funke. Commissioner Metzler.
Aye.
And Commissioner Morell is not here.
Excuse me, Travis, can I interrupt again?
Please.
There's a phone number and an attendee that I don't recognize, so I'm going to allow that person to talk to find out if it's a commissioner.
Okay.
Hi, who's on this call ending in 6082? Okay.
Do we think it's Sandy? meeting. Can he resend the link?
I'll see if I can forward the link from my email.
Okay.
This is Sandy. I've loaded more dilithium crystals. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Dance time.
I just had to hang up twice and re-log in twice.
Mhm.
I sent.
So yeah, this is what virtual background does on my computer.
Oh, that's great. You look like the Iceman.
Right.
We should all get ones like that.
Brad, you look radioactive.
Yeah, you kind of look like the Borg there, you know?
Yeah, right.
All right, is everyone with us? Sorry about that. There was just a huge power surge, and at least I think that's what happened, and the generators kicked in.
I think I got some of that power surge on my virtual background here.
Right.
You're glowing, Fred. Alex, this is not normal. This usually goes pretty smooth. So if this, I just talked to Wendy, and if this does happen again, we'll just have to postpone the meeting because we just can't keep doing this. We don't know what's going to happen. So let's go ahead and progress. No, I don't see you, David. Oh, okay. I think Wendy is going to elevate.
I promoted him.
Oh, David showed up somewhere there.
Hello, 1, 2, 3.
He's there.
We can hear you.
Wow.
Can't see you.
Isn't it fun? Do you see me at my smiling face?
No.
No, only my smiling voice. Okay, it's better than I had before. I see all these fine folks. Start my video. That might help. Look at that.
There you go.
Good God. I've only been on 6 hours of Zoom today. Thank God it works.
Well, I was on a Zoom with Kimberly where they said she was all tied up at La Luz, and I said, shoot, I hope they untie her.
No, I heard about them making a video. That sounded pretty cool.
We did a microloan of a new business that does mobile mobile care for animals in terms of cleaning them and such. So they came and did a video of this mobile van showing up at my house and giving my dog a wash.
Oh, Bodie needs a wash for sure.
Yeah, it was really cute.
So I hate to interject, but I think we should probably move forward just in case there's another power outage so we can get as much done as possible. So we did have the approval of the agenda. So I think, did I get everyone's votes? Oh, no, I had asked, I think I was on Commissioner Funky. I didn't get your vote.
Approve.
Okay. And then I think, and then Commissioner Merrill, do you have any?
I approve the agenda wholeheartedly.
Excellent. Okay. So the next order is any comments from the public?
If I can't get in, how can the
I'm
public
looking to
get
see
in?
if there
No attendees.
Wendy's checking the email account to see if there are any public comments.
I don't know if I missed anything. My computer froze up for a couple of minutes there. So we're on public comments now?
That's correct. Yeah. Are you on the same grid as we are? I don't know
Now
how.
I'm back, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
There
I
are
don't know what happened.
power outages today, starting now.
Okay, there are no public comments, so we can go to item 2, the consent calendar. Obviously, the public comments are there. So the next item of business is 2.2, which is discussion and possible action on the minutes from the August 12th, 2020 regular meeting.
I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? And roll call vote?
Commissioner Alabak,
Aye.
Commissioner Blattner,
Aye.
Commissioner Funke,
Aye.
Commissioner Metzler,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrell.
Aye.
Great. The minutes of the August meeting are approved. So moving right along to number 3 on the regular calendar, the first order of business is item 3.1, where we have a new youth representative, and I will of course butcher her name again. This Alex Antenen.
Antenen, but we'll definitely, it's not super easy. Don't worry about it.
So we've asked Alex just to introduce herself to the rest of the commission and take it away, Alex.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alex Antenen, the new youth representative of the Community Services and Environment Commission. I'm 16 and currently a junior at Justin Siena. Through the past 2 years of high school, I've enjoyed participating in theater, student government, and many clubs. My favorite classes this semester are my civil engineering course and my pre-calculus class. People often ask, what do you want to study in college, or what are your career goals? And wow, that's a loaded question, but I think that I would like to study something involving medicine or the brain, and I hope to one day have a job where I can have an impact, and I'm considering perhaps a cognitive scientist, psychologist, or pediatrician. You may also be asking yourself, why the heck did I apply for a position on this council? And there were a couple factors that prompted me to send in an application, one of which is during this pandemic, I've really realized the significance of Sonoma's beautiful parks and the value of being in nature. Coupled with my passion for contributing to the community, the CSEC really interested me and seemed like a good fit. I'd like to thank all of you for the opportunity to contribute to this commission, and I look forward to working with each of you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Alex.
Welcome, Alex.
Yes, welcome.
Welcome.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
And maybe someday we can all do this in person and you can meet everyone in person. So
Wow, wouldn't that be awesome?
it would be.
I just want to make a quick comment. Thank you. Welcome, Alex. And as a former high school public speaking teacher, excellent job. Great introduction.
Okay, so the next item is 3.2. So as you all know, Jack Wagner, who was the chair of the commission, resigned. So currently Matt is the vice president, so he is leading the meeting, but we need to have an election of a new chair and a new vice chair. And at that point, the new chair would then take over the meeting, and we would have a new chair and vice chair. So the order would be to ask for any nominations or self-nominations.
I would like to nominate our prior chair, Fred Alabak, as to return to the chair.
And I'd like to second that nomination.
So do you accept, Fred?
Well, I don't know if that's the proper procedure, but yes, I would accept.
If offered, would you serve?
Yes, I would.
We need a discussion and a vote, I
Yep.
believe.
Is there any discussion?
Okay.
Sorry, Matt's running this. Sorry.
Yeah, so is there any discussion?
Well, I was very impressed with Commissioner Alabak's role as a chair in our previous time, and I'm more than pleased to suggest he return to the great powers of the chair position.
I concur.
That's
I concur.
very nice of you all.
We have to have
So,
a
So
any more discussion? Then I'd like to call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Alabak, voting for Fred Alabak as being the new chair.
Aye.
Commissioner Blattner,
aye.
Commissioner Funky,
Aye.
Commissioner Metzler,
Aye.
Commissioner Morel.
All right,
Okay, take it away, Fred.
Okay. Well, now that we've had the election of the new chair, we need to elect a new vice chair.
Actually, I'm not sure we do. That was operating under the assumption that the vice chair may have gone to the chair, but if the vice chair has not vacated that position, I don't think we need to elect a new vice chair unless the current vice chair wishes otherwise.
No, I think that's fine. There's no need to have another election.
Okay, well, we keep our vice chair, and then we'll move on to agenda item 3.3, creation of a CSEC task force creating nonprofit for dedicated bike pedestrian trail expansion. Staff is requesting that the task force be created and that it will provide updates at each CSEC meeting and submit a draft report by March 10th, 2021, following staff comments and recommendations. Final report should be provided by the City Council by April 17th, 2021. Travis, do you have a staff report?
I do. It's actually it's in the agenda packet. Basically, to kind of summarize the key points, is I think it's well established that we need to personal motor vehicles is the largest contributor of greenhouse gases in Sonoma, as well as Sonoma County and in most of the country. And one of the goals is to try to encourage people to use alternative transportation, people-powered transportation, whether it's biking and walking. And what we know is some of the barriers to that are one, safety, but accessibility. And what the research has shown is dedicated paths are used much more frequently than bike lanes and bike, dedicated bike trails are always have the highest use. And this is something that was brought up in the sustainability work plan that the city council approved. And the action item was stated was to explore the creation of a nonprofit to help create paths / trails for bikes and pedestrians. And one of the reasons for this nonprofit is the government, a city government is limited as to what they can do in this avenue. But there's a lot of models out there where nonprofits have come in, and it's sort of, it's not necessarily just creating the trails, but also looking at easement rights, negotiating those, and working with the city. And there's a big program in near Little Rock, Arkansas. The one I'm most familiar with is in Portland, Maine. It's called Portland Trails, which started off trying to get 30 miles of trails, and they were so successful they did 100 miles of trails. What's interesting is in Portland, very few of them are actually old railroad right-of-ways, whereas other organizations have focused on railroad right-of-ways because that's a key element, or natural gas right-of-ways and utility right-of-ways. But there's other aspects that can do with easements and so forth. So the thought was that this is where we could really use the commission's help, is to help is for you to create a task force to help identify how this could work in the city, or connecting maybe the city and the valley, trying to create, establish more of these dedicated trails for pedestrian and biking use. And part of this would be for commuting, but recreation, and the other key point is, we're a significant tourist-based economy, is to get people out of the car and have better connections, example, to the plaza, so they're not driving around the plaza looking for a parking space, but they're walking and biking. So that's kind of the summary of what's in the staff report. I'd be glad to answer any questions, but what we're looking for is for you to create this task force, and then we have set some kind of general milestones about updating us, and then trying to create some type of report about going forward, and basically how would this look, how could this work in Sonoma.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I think this is an excellent report. Thank you very much for this, Travis. I think it's a great idea. I would love to serve on this ad hoc committee, and I've already have a lot of ideas. I've already reached out to Adrian Palanchar with Project Bicycle to see if he is interested. And anyway, I have lots of other ideas of other people we could reach out to and organizations to get involved.
Sandy?
Brad, can I ask you? Yeah. I think it's a really interesting idea. Sonoma County Regional Parks benefits from a friends group that is there. We have it primarily in a similar function as a governmental agency. It's hard for us to get grants, and so they are kind of our group to get grants. I'm a little, I don't want to say perplexed, but I would like to see this group investigate the possibility of doing this work through existing nonprofits, because you can have an entire initiative, I'm sure everybody here knows, and have it be one of the existing nonprofits be a fiscal sponsor. It's quite a bit less work to work, well, arguably it could be a lot less work to work with an existing nonprofit. For example, the Sonoma Land Trust, the Sonoma Ecology Center, or even possibly the Bicycle Coalition. So if this goes forward, I would like for it to include not only investigating starting a nonprofit, but also investigating working with one of the existing nonprofits. I would like the group to look into that, because I think in the long run, it could save those that are working a lot of heartache and work, where they'd be spending building nonprofit governance and not actually working on bicycle things. So that's my question a little bit and comment, Travis.
Go ahead, David. Unmute, David.
There it is. Related to what Sandy just said, we have a number of nonprofits that are performing similar duties at the moment. We would certainly want any new group to interface with them. There's a whole group called the Sonoma Overlook Trail Stewards. Their fiscal sponsor is the Sonoma Ecology Center. We have activities at Sonoma Garden Park. There's a large volunteer effort at Sugarloaf Park, which of course is now fire-based closed, but we're hoping eventually to reopen again. There's activity with volunteers at Jack London Park nearby. So at a minimum, I would like this new organization, if it emerges, to interface closely with all of those rather than becoming something new and independent.
But to respond, I think the language says new, but that's part of the task force. They could come back and say, no, that does not make financial organizational sense. It really should be a part of this group or something, because yeah, just creating a whole new nonprofit can be expensive and time consuming. So see, the task force isn't quite formed yet. You've already done amazing work. So that's good feedback for that. And so that's that's what we're looking for, is direction and what makes the most sense. Absolutely.
You have some feedback, Alex?
I I agree. It's a lot to set up. A whole new nonprofit. I was wondering if you do end up forming a task force, whether or not you would have representative of kind of the younger generation who might want to be using these paths. But I don't know if I'm even allowed to represent or suggest people to represent on a task force like this.
Great question. The answer is yes, because it's a task force. So there are no specific limitations as to who can participate. Yeah. Oh, Matt.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, the Project Bicycle is actually under the auspices of the Teen Center. And so there, Adrian is very well, is really in touch with a lot of the local youth who bicycle. So like I said, I've already reached out to him, and we'll see about making sure we have a strong youth voice in whatever decision is made.
Any feedback, Kimberly? Well, I feel entirely confident that Matt is the man for this job here. About a task force seems like, does force imply more than one? Is anyone else interested in I think Matt would be the perfect guy to spearhead this, and that he could easily do it by himself. And Adrian is great. We just went down and had my wife's bike fixed up there, and he volunteered on the Overlook Trail, and so he's a fantastic person to have involved here. So I think with Matt and Adrian, that's a great task force right there.
And certainly, Matt, as you go forward, you have the wealth of contacts from this group for getting a hold of the right person at the existing nonprofits. Call upon us to help you, make sure people call you back and stuff.
Yeah.
I think this is the right group. We know enough of those people.
Yeah.
But did we say that Alex was going to have a few youth people join this group? Can you hear me?
I think Alex said yes, because she's muted.
I can, if that's needed. It sounded like maybe Matt had some other ideas.
No, that's fine.
Okay, I can come up with some people if need be.
Excellent.
I'd have a suggestion for you, Matt, that we've had the county bike path come through our commission a couple of times.
Yeah.
And, that could be an option, to try and punch something down from the bike path down Level Valley and open up the parking lot there in front of Sonoma's Best, so people could park and bike, and maybe get Ken Matson to open up that dog leg of the old railroad bed so people could bike through there. And that would start to connect that county bike path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think these are all things that would be considered. I'm just reading through Travis's report, and I would like, it says the task force may have a maximum of 2 CSEC members. I'm a little reluctant to proceed without a commitment of others to work with me.
Because you can have more. The 2 commissioner limitation is a Brown Act.
Yeah.
And they'd have to be public meetings and so forth. But you can certainly have other individuals as part of that.
Yeah.
And does Alex count as our youth commissioner?
Good. I would think, yes.
That's a question I don't know if I can answer. Of course, she definitely counts. The question is, because of the non-voting status, is that a limitation? I don't know. I'd have to check with the city clerk.
Well, like you said, Travis, this is a task force. And so basically just corralling resources and you know, teeing some stuff up, and Matt's got to be the perfect ringleader for this, because you want somebody who's really driven by an item to be at the center of it, and that's clearly Matt.
So just a question for Travis and me, for this is a task force. It is not an ad hoc subcommittee of the commission. Is that correct? I mean, there's a difference. I mean, if it's an ad hoc subcommittee of the commission, then there's certain rules that come into play.
Correct. And it was, the city council approved it as the word was task force. So
Okay.
that was approved. Yeah.
So that's kind of more open. It's not a official subcommittee of the commission. So other commissioners would not necessarily be required. You know, it could be commissioners and or anybody else who wanted to be on it, but just as long as it's not more than 2 commissioners.
Correct. Yes. I also just wanted to make one other comment. What some of these other programs have done is, instead of just focusing on the big trails, they've found a lot of amazing use and benefit from just connecting areas, you know, a couple blocks, which I think some of you realize, and that can be pretty powerful, just that. So it doesn't have to be the big, huge trail. And obviously the co-benefits of green, ecological benefits in green spaces are pretty powerful.
I have one suggestion. I like to make just one suggestion going forward, is that I know that Matt is ambitious and he's going to want to move on this, so that it'll just be good for staff and Matt to be clear about what the exact parameters of the task force is.
When you say parameters, are you talking about products or?
Just so the expectations are clear of what Matt's going to be doing.
I would wonder about us setting early on of goals and timetables, targets and timetables.
Well, we do have that in the, is that actually in the agenda, or?
No, it's in the report.
It's actually in the agenda item too, about a draft report by March 10th and something formal, if the decision is to move forward, by April 17th, to bring something to the city council if the decision is to move forward with that.
Okay.
One other question about parameters. So this is the commission is a City of Sonoma commission. Is this task force going to be limit itself to within the city limits of Sonoma? I mean, that's just a huge issue in the valley. And, you know, we all know that we have various bicycle and other, you know, environmental projects and initiatives that have all stopped at the city limits. And, you know, that's just an issue to consider.
I think that's something that would come out of the recommendation of the task force. Obviously, it needs to be a key focus is on the city, but we all know we're interconnected with the valley. And if it makes sense to, you know, if it's an existing nonprofit, that nonprofit's mission may not be limited to the city, but it may be limited to the valley. And so you got to meld within that mission. And I think that's a very reasonable expectation that the task force would find.
So all these are issues that would be addressed by the task force.
That's correct. Yeah, we're starting from a blank slate with just that charge and a couple of dates, and it's really, I think, how the task force shapes it. With the ultimate goal is how can we get this to work and what makes the most sense. Absolutely.
Do we need to vote on this, Travis?
Yes, we do, because it's definitely an action requirement. So it would be to approve the creation of the task force Once that's done, then it would be selecting members of the task force.
Can't that all be in one motion?
Sure, I think it can be.
I move to create a CSEC task force for creating a nonprofit or partnering with a nonprofit as a fiscal agent for dedicated bike pedestrian trail expansion.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Alabak,
Aye.
Commissioner Blattner,
Aye.
Commissioner Funke,
Aye.
Commissioner Metzler,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrell.
I,
All right, it passes unanimously.
Okay, well, let's move on to agenda item 3.4, discussion and possible action.
Fred, I think we do have to say who the members of the commission are from the.
Oh, and I also needed to go to public comment.
Whoops, we did not have public comment. Whoops.
Yep. Okay. Well, that was my greatest weakness as chair, is always forgetting public comment.
it'll be better this time, Mr. New Chair.
You've been out of practice.
I'll have to really work on that. Let's see. So I don't see any members of the public. I don't know if Wendy has people on the phone. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment?
I believe she's checked.
Also, sometimes there's a way for people to phone in public comments, but I don't know if if anybody's attempting to do that.
We'll wait to get the word from Wendy if we have any phone comments. I know sometimes it takes a while for people to hook in, so it'll be worth it if someone comes in later, we can come back to them for courtesy reasons if the technology's not quite right.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm checking for public comment right now.
Okay.
Okay, there's no public comments, so we can, did we name who was on the task force? I think
Yes.
besides Matt, do we have anyone else on the commission?
Alex.
Alex?
Okay, great.
Okay. So we all good for that agenda item?
So I'll talk to you, Alex. Make sure you send out your email address so we can communicate.
Okay, I will.
Okay, I think I'm clear to move on to the next agenda item. 3.4, discussion and possible action on public electric vehicle chargers in Sonoma. Staff is requesting the CSEC to provide direction on an appropriate path forward to increase the number of available L2 EV chargers in a cost-effective manner. Have a staff report, Travis.
Yeah, so there's a detailed staff report in the agenda packet, and part of it is to give just some background. And what's interesting is obviously we've heard the governor's executive order basically prohibiting the sale of electric vehicles by, I think it's 2035. Clearly, and if you look at the, when we had Tom Conlon's report and David Leland's report, the number one source of employee greenhouse gases is from motor vehicles. And the Regional Climate Protection Authority, also the inventory by far, I think it's about 65% or so of greenhouse gases is from motor vehicles. So this is the biggest challenge that we face. All indications are is that we're going to electrification. It's a slow start, but California is the number one in sales, certainly by total volume, and I believe by per capita as well. So we're moving that way. One of the challenges is the city has very few public charging chargers available. And the city owns two actual chargers. So typically now stations typically will have two chargers. The ones that city owns on the parking lot sort of behind the Sebastiani Theater are about 10 years, I think they're about 10 years old. Each station has a single charger point. One of them is broken. We have secured parts for that. The schedule right now is that it should be repaired hopefully by November. Those are two charge point chargers. So those are L2 chargers, which are sort of the medium speed chargers. Take about, for a full charge, maybe 3 or 4 hours or so. There are what's called the DC fast chargers, or sometimes called superchargers, which are the destination fill-up chargers. There's 4 of them located in the Bank of America parking lot. They still have not been energized yet. When I talked to the company this summer, they said they hoped PG&E would flip the switch in October. So, I don't know the status of that. There was a funding opportunity through Sonoma Clean Power, a rebate program called that they administered through what's called Cal EVIP. And it's a rebate program. It's not a grant program, but you could present projects that there was a set rebate based on certain parameters. We looked at all the options in the city. The date for that was August 8th was the application deadline, and we did not submit an application. The challenge is that, I think I've talked about this a little bit before at the last meeting, is looking at our parking designations next to buildings. The electrical supply in all cases is highly problematic, such that it would be extremely expensive to install a new panel and to do the trenching from that new panel to the new chargers. So we looked at the fire station. That just was not going to happen because we would have had to trench under some above ground diesel tanks and a very thick concrete pad. So that was just not going to happen. We looked at the police station, but the electric panel is on the opposite side of the public parking. So that would just be way prohibitively expensive. And we looked at the Depot Park. So the city actually only owns, I think, about 14 spots on Depot Park parking lot. Most of that's actually owned by the county. One of the issues is that the electric meter on the museum building, although the city owns that building, the tenant, the Historical Society, pays for all utilities and essentially owns that meter. We looked at the possibility of installing a new meter, but there's a gas meter probably about 2 feet from the electric panel, which is not in code. You can't do that. So we couldn't install a new meter because we'd have had to install a whole new gas meter and reconfigure that, which would just be prohibitively expensive. There was an issue recently. Some construction did damage that gas line. So that gas line is not currently operable, which is another issue, but that may have potential opportunities for a new meter. So that's kind of where we're at with looking at public metering. What we did do is we reached out with that rebate program, we reached out to Chamber of Commerce, private, nonprofits, anyone, to try to get them to apply for this rebate and install EV chargers, because the financial requirement was that they have to be publicly available, but that was broadly defined. You could do them in apartments, that was publicly available, but some of them had to be accessible by the public 24/7. I did actually just today, I got the number of applications that were preliminarily approved for the city of Sonoma. The locations are confidential at this time because they have not been done. They have to go forward and actually get the permits and do the construction, then they'll get the rebate. But there appears to be about 10 to 11 chargers that are currently potentially going to be installed in the city. But again, those could be for apartment buildings or whatever. We just don't know. But it's a combination of the level 2 and the DC fast chargers. So that's kind of where we're at. So the thought is, how do we move forward? Because the demand is there, and we know the demand is going to increase. We need to get public chargers, but how can we do this in the most cost-effective manner? I believe it was Commissioner Funke had brought up this was addressed at the last meeting, and this is why it's on the agenda, because it was agendized, is can there be an allotment of money budgeted specifically for EV chargers by the city? So the direction and the request is looks at 3 potential options to try to move this forward. One of them was instead of the city using a set amount of money, is to instead try to use that money as a grant potential to help leverage some other costs or other opportunities that it's not necessarily on public property, but they would be publicly available charging stations. And one of the thoughts there is once you actually, and this is our experience with the chargers that we own now, once you purchase them, you still have to maintain them and service them. And that's been a problem if you don't budget that. So if you spend $50,000, then you have to look at what's the life cycle costs of that, especially since it's new technology flipping. So that was one of the options that, we're looking at. Is that a direction that we should go? The other direction is, what about that meter on the Depot Park? Is that something that the city should consider pursuing? And these are all, of course, city council decisions. But is that something, realizing that then there would be the potential for 2 stations or 4 chargers located on the city lot, city parking stalls right next to the, basically right behind the railroad cars. The other thing, and this isn't a either or, is as was shown in the report by David Leland and Tom Conlon about the city greenhouse gases, is should the city look at employee EV charging, specifically for employees? And the difference is if you're getting a commercial off-the-shelf like ChargePoint charger, those may be about $7,000 or $8,000. And the money, the reason why they're so expensive, and that's just the charger, that's not the installation. The reason why it's so expensive is you have to deal with software because it's a charging system, because someone has to be charging, and so it's the software and basically the mechanics that go with that. What some organizations have done for employees, they're very simple. They cost about $500-$600 because they're not, there's no accounts and there's no Wi-Fi needed and all these additional software as a mechanism to help offset the city's greenhouse gas production from commuting. So those are the 3 options. We're looking at advice from the commission as what should we move forward with, and based on that, what should be considered potentially for bringing forth to the city council.
Kimberly?
Travis, Fred, if there's already in the pipeline lined up for 14 more stations, how do we determine from that whether or not that would be adequate? And how do we also determine, do we have no way of knowing where they'll be placed? You said that was confidential?
Correct. It's confidential through Sonoma Clean Power, because they've been they're requests for the projects, but they haven't been permitted or constructed. So they're just not going to reveal the names of them until the grant comes through in the rebate. So we wouldn't actually know until they reveal that information. So that's a good question. We don't know. We could wait and see where they all are and say, well, what makes the most sense? And I do want to make a key point is that funding program was a 3-year program. This next cycle will also be a rebate program that will start in August of next year. So there will be some funds available, but again, it's a rebate, not a grant. So it's not like there's no funds. So that might be an opportunity time for decision making. I don't know. That's what we're looking for you all for advice.
Well, Travis, I first want to commend you because it sounds like that many applications, if I'm not mistaken, were partly due to your outreach to all these different folks. So thank you, number one, because I think that's a bit of a success. I do wonder when they say 10 applications, that could be for, I get a little confused, like plugs at each. It could be up to how many, it could be anywhere from like what, 2 to 4 to 8 plugs per location. I guess, okay. And I wonder if we could at least glean out of if we could, I know those people, I worked on the hall from them, if we could squeeze them to at least find the categories, like how many are apartments, how many are hotels, how many are shopping centers, and then we could kind of, if we could at least get that, maybe we could have a little bit of an idea of where they're going, because that would, like say we found out none of them are shopping centers, like that to me would be like, okay, now let's think about, that would help guide us, I think, a little more if they could at least tell us maybe the categories. So I'll leave it there, but I'll let you answer that, and then I have some more questions as well.
Because I know that the community center had been talking about establishing some in terms of their program, that they were going to get a rebate or something. So, I mean, that would be an absolutely perfect location.
Yes, the community center is talking to a different entity outside of that, but they have been actively involved in discussions about potential a siting of some chargers. Absolutely. I have the categories of like level 2 versus superchargers, but that's it. But I have no problem asking if they could narrow it down a little bit to the type of facility. Absolutely. I do want to raise the point is I did reach out to the state historic park. They were potentially interested if we paid for them.
And I have to say, my hooking you up with the county on my timing was absolutely atrocious, because I sent over my email, I think it was 48 hours after the glass fire started. So it was great timing for me because I wasn't doing a lot of programming, but really horrible timing for anybody else at County Park. So I would say, like, please don't read into if people haven't got back to you that I hooked you up with. It's for my group, it's not such a bad time, but right now, because of the fire at Hood, all those operations, people are still in emergency mode for the next couple of weeks. So if you did not get a response, please don't read into it, because we at the county are looking at, we're really looking at sustainability efforts throughout the whole county. And I believe that we even have prioritized looking at charging stations at county properties. So I just think my timing was really bad for hooking you up. Although it sounds like the parking lot at Depot is somewhat problematic, but just if we go that way, I don't want you to be deterred by that, because things are still on fire. So.
No, I totally respect that, and I appreciate you doing that. And as we all know, timing is everything. Is you got to get it out there and get people thinking about it. And when the opportunity comes, hopefully, because I thought the state park, they have this, 2 large parking spaces at the Casa Grande and General Vallejo's home, but they're budget constrained, and they were interested in partnering, but that was not well defined at this point. But that's something that we can also potentially explore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had just a few questions. In your report, Travis, you talked about charging at 112 West Napa, and I'm not familiar with where that charging station is.
Yeah, I saw that. I went and checked it out. It's behind, oh, what is that behind? It's sort of behind the Red Grape. There's a large parking area behind there. And it just popped up on my screen as a charge point, which is
Oh, okay.
public. And I
Yeah.
went and ground truth it. It's like, it's there. And it's an interesting parking lot because there's lots of buildings and it's sort of like a giant, I think actually if you enter like where Umpqua Bank is,
Yeah.
it's all the way around to like Red Grape. And so there's a lot of tenants and parking there. So
Yeah, I didn't know that was available to the public.
It popped up on you can charge a car here with a charge point. So, and there were no signs that said,
Yeah, yeah.
tenants
Okay.
only. So I'm
Yeah.
making that assumption. And hopefully
Yeah, and I just wonder about the whole issue of publicly available, like the ones in the Bank of America parking lot. That's publicly available, but technically that is private property. That's Bank of America's parking lot.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering if situations arise where there's a charging station, but for construction or change of ownership or other unforeseen reasons, the parking lot no longer becomes available.
Mhm.
And then you lose those spaces. And frankly, over the years, I'm really surprised that the Bank of America has not blocked off their lot because it becomes parking on Tuesday nights. It's parking for the farmers market. And if I was Bank of America, I would be ticked off that my customers' employees could not use their own lot on Tuesday, could not use their own lots on Tuesday. So anyway, for reasons like that, what is now a public parking lot could end up becoming not available to the public.
that's a key point is if it's on private property, even though today it's publicly available charging, they could end that tomorrow. That's one of the key considerations is, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I also just have a comment, nothing, I don't want to step on anybody's toes on city employees, but as a owner of a electric vehicle, when my wife used it to commute to work, we would never go to work without enough charge to get home. The employees do not buy electric vehicles that do not have enough range to get from their home to work and back home. So that I don't see how having it for employees' use is not really going to reduce greenhouse gases, because those are employees who already, it's very unlikely that an employee would purchase an electric vehicle who they did not already have a charging station at their home where they were charging up before coming to and from work. So I don't really know if that's going to, having it for city employees is really going to help us that much.
Yeah, the thinking there was, it was just going to potentially incentivize someone making that jump, because that's, for some people, it's a giant leap to get rid of the internal combustion engine to go electric. So it's just something that some companies have done, and your point is definitely well taken, and it might not make much sense there, but that's an option, and we're looking for your advice as the commission.
Travis, I have a couple more questions. One, when you were doing, again, I'm trying to unfurl the secret that I'm going to make them tell us. Were you able to reach out to the property managers of the parking lot, any of the big parking lots, like Tina Luster? She's the manager, I think, at the parking lot for Whole Foods. Were they people that you reached out to with this grant program?
I did indirectly. I worked with the Chamber of Commerce, which is also part of the economic development, Mark Bodenhammer. The other thing is I know that in discussions with, for example, Tesla and ChargePoint, they were actively working. And actually, they said, can you give me contacts? So I gave them contacts, and they reached out. So there was multiple attempts at reaching out at all these organizations, wineries, and the larger like Safeway, and the challenge with some of those is it's the owner. So there might be tenants that are interested in, but it's really the owner that makes that determination. So I know that they were working with them. And so it'd be interesting when that list is revealed to see if any of them actually did that.
Yeah, I know they were reached out to before, but I totally hear what Matt was saying. I mean, just trying to park in that parking lot behind Pizza Capri, which I've tried to do, is like extremely challenging, I feel like. So there's parking lots and there's parking lots. And it just seemed like, I don't know, like my personal like goal is to get charging stations in the Whole Foods parking lot, because it's such a big parking lot. It's rarely full. It is utilized by people going, it's a very convenient place if people are driving into town and want to go walk around the square. It's just, I think it's a really great place. It's across from the hotel. There's so many pieces there that would make sense. How many employees does the city have?
I believe, because they're centered, well, besides the police and fire department, they're centered in the corporation yard and then City Hall, Carnegie Hall. I think there's, I'm going to mess this up, 40?
That number is in David Leland's report.
Yeah, I
don't know. I was going to say more like 35, but it's in that same.
Wendy might know.
35, is that correct? Yeah, she said about 35.
I'm trying to think we have 2 chargers in our office building, and actually Sonoma Clean Power would have a really good reading for this. And it's exactly a workplace charger. And I would love to hear from them for our county building, how much those are utilized. It seems to me there's about 100 plus of us in those buildings. And I'd love for them to tell you how much they feel like those chargers are used. It seems like they're not always. I think what Matt's talking about may be the case, where if people are going to get an EV, they don't end up charging it at work because they know, when they buy it, they think about that. So I'm really curious for ours, by our work, how much they're used. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I just have 2 comments. I'm with all of the upscale hotels that we have in Ardent Valley, and just really surprised me that we do not have a Tesla charging station at any of these hotels. And I don't know how that works out, but it just seems like a lot of those hotels are catering to the type of people who drive Teslas, and that they don't have any way to charge it. Anyway, I also want to share my experience as an owner of an electric vehicle. We were visiting my in-laws down in Redwood City, and we didn't realize till we had left that we had forgotten to charge the car. And so we went online, and it's like, we just need enough charge to get home. And we found a public charging station, and I believe it was in the city of Burlingame. But it's a DC high-speed charger, and we only had to sit there for like 10, 15 minutes to get enough charge to get home. And that's what will put Sonoma on the map, is people, visitors, whether they're tourists or workers, who's like, oh my gosh, I'm out of charge, I forgot. They need a charge now to get them enough charge to get home. And the DC fast chargers are really the way to go. And that is what will attract people to buy EVs. If they know they get stuck, they pull up their phone, it says there's a charging station here, they can plug in and they can have, because we know that most people are driving to like elsewhere in the Bay Area. And they need enough charge to get home, to get to Sacramento or the East Bay or wherever. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
So Travis, if we were to set up a mini grant program, could it be something like, say I'm Hotel Funky and I want to do a charger, and maybe I want to do one of these. Could we set it up that in the budget annually, we're dedicating this much money to a small grant program to help Hotel Funky put in chargers? And by the way, Hotel Funky, if you say you're going to put in a DC charger, you're going to get scored higher than Hotel Metzler that's only going to put in an L2 charger. Is this the kind of thing we could set up?
Well, obviously, this is all city council area. We don't, this is, at this point, this is just a thought. How would we is this even plausible? Can we come up with something like that? So I think it's how do you define publicly available? So that's something that would have to be worked out. But at this point, there's not many things that are off the table as long as if it's public funds, so it has to be specifically within that parameters that it's public funds, potentially public funds.
I don't want to get you fired, but do you have any faith that city council could pass anything solid at this current juncture? It just seems like everything is getting stuck at city council. Do you think it would be possible we could get this through city council?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
Can I ask Fred that? I feel like other people follow city council even more than me. I don't know if I can ask other members of the commission. Do we think that something like that could pass city council?
I didn't bring my tea leaves with me tonight to divine that answer, but it seems to me something like this has a pretty decent chance because of the way that it could boost the economy of the town, and that particularly with what Matt was saying, that if you put something on the map here, and I don't know, maybe we could hear from David and Alex if they have any feedback here.
Yeah, well, I was going to add I've been driving an EV of one kind or another for a number of years. The newer EVs, including my new Chevrolet Bolt, has a 260-mile range. So when I go to Redwood City or SFO, whenever we can travel again, I can get down there and back on a full charge easily. My first EV had 80 miles, and when I went to Oakland or San Francisco, it got pretty exciting getting home, but not anymore. So to the degree we're going to be tourist-based out of the core of the Bay Area, people can charge at home and get it to Sonoma. You're looking at longer-term travel. That's one issue, and that's where the DC fast charger might indeed be really attractive. I like the idea of having it on city property, frankly, as part of a message that we're eagerly encouraging environmental travel in a post-COVID, post-economic collapse from COVID period. So I think, that's important. The fast chargers right across from the plaza at the Bank of America from the Volkswagen settlement are certainly encouraging whenever they get hooked up. That's my last point. The whole hookup and the reliance on my good friends at PG&E, tongue in cheek, makes me very nervous. I'm intrigued with a system out of San Diego that is solar and is grid unconnected. It comes as a transportable unit with either 4 or 8 plugs, and you go immediately online because you don't have to wait 6 months or 6 years for PG&E to finally grant you all of the requirements and the costs of hookup. The unit is more expensive, but it's ready to roll on day one without this endless wait for PG&E. I would bet you that we're looking at many, many months before these units that are still confidential as to their location actually get online. And look how long it's taken at the Bank of America. That was pre-COVID when those puppies first went in. I saw them there, and they're still sitting unused, unhooked up. That's the old PG&E game somehow. So take a look at these units. It's called Envision Solar out of San Diego as a possibility. If we could get the money for that, it could be installed next week because it's ready to roll when they bring it here. And it works with batteries so that you can charge at night. So it's a pretty impressive system to avoid having to be hostage to our good friends at PG&E.
Alex?
Quite honestly, I got my license 2 months ago, and neither of my parents own electric vehicles, so I don't really think I have the expertise to comment, but I'm happy to hear that we're, as Sonoma, moving in a direction to provide more chargers in Sonoma. I think that's really good, and I think it'll reap great benefits in the future.
Well, I'd like to throw a few comments in here. I wanted to ask Travis, are you collating these comments so that so that you can kind of take them in aggregate as far as what you bring to the council, or are you looking for a specific recommendation for us tonight?
We're looking for a specific recommendation from you all tonight, or if you
Okay.
want to table it, but for tonight.
Well, I'd like to say that then, I liked Matt's idea of the DC fast chargers and putting Sonoma on the map. And I like David's idea, and I had thought that on city property is really good too, because you want to be able to advertise that the city is behind it. So that I think that the Depot Park idea of getting four fast chargers there would be something that the city could advertise at the Visitors Bureau, or a little charger sign if people need them, or somehow it's on the city website. So, and that's easy enough to get to there from downtown. So that's what I would recommend listening to this. The other things of Sonoma Clean Power, of where they might be, seems kind of uncertain, and I think that the city would want a certainty there with what they got, and the city would be looking for a way to boost their own reputation here and to advertise to visitors. It's not only tourists, but people will come to visit their family or whatever. They could go down there and charge it up. So that I would, that's what I would lean to, would be something at Depot Park with the fast chargers, and get the city on the map with that.
We picked 2 out of 3 options. I personally like that a lot. I also don't want to let go of the small grant idea, because I think that could get us chargers in a really important spot. So I just wonder, Travis, if we can give you direction of pursue these 2, let go of this one, and then, press for, I like the idea of looking into what Fred was talking about. I think we should definitely look into what Fred was what David was talking about.
Sure. I'd like to make a couple comments. So I have been in discussions with Tesla for a while now. And one of the challenges, and they definitely want to be in Sonoma, just looking at where, one of the challenges with the DC fast charger is, with DC fast chargers, you have to drop in a new transformer and large inverters. And they have to have enough power on like a major trunk line for PG&E. And if you're looking at cost, a level 2 charger is about $7,500, $8,000, but a DC fast charger is about $60,000, $70,000 per charger. And that doesn't include the transformer and inverters. One of the challenges with Depot Park is putting that there putting a new transformer and the inverter bank would encroach onto the historical aspect there. And there's a mess of utilities there, as we found out with the accidental discovery of the gas line. So that site is, in all likelihood, probably not good for fast chargers, which is why in the recommendation it's the level 2 chargers. I think the comments are great that DC fast chargers are destination chargers. I would counter that by saying, no, we want people to park their car and walk to the plaza, not just drive to Sonoma, charge up and leave town. That's just the visitation, the tourist aspect. But there is the cost aspect and the infrastructure to support that. And we looked at Depot Park for the fast chargers, and that just does not look like it would be appropriate. If you've ever seen the Bank of America size, those are a little large, but they're quite large. And I think there might be some challenges there, but the level 2 chargers are quite small, and the electrical infrastructure is relatively minimal. It's like having a dryer plug for the level 2, whereas the DC fast chargers, you need a new transformer, and PG&E has to install that. So I'm not trying to I'm just trying to lay out all the facts that those are the implications that we've been trying to grapple with and deal with.
Well, Sonoma has managed to stay ahead of a lot of things that it's passed. It was the only city in the county to pass the 21 climate measures, first in the Sonoma Clean Power
Mhm.
Evergreen.
Evergreen, yeah.
So we're looking at a wave of electric vehicles coming. The governor said, we're going to have more and more electric vehicles. So I think that regardless of the cost, the city wants to position itself to be able to handle this.
Mhm.
And, in a budget of $24 million, you can play a shell game and get that $70,000 for that transformer. I mean, somebody just has to say, Bob, you're not going to get that new car this next year for your department, or something like that. The new city manager has to say that. But this is really going to be the next cutting edge thing to have these chargers, and so I think the city needs to have a range of them in places that it's on its own property, under its own control, that it can advertise and say, we've got these. This is Sonoma, and we're ready. And that's what I would recommend. And so there's you might have to go ahead and do it somewhere where it's on city property, like Depot Park. That's close to where else, or else do it with the in the lot behind the historic. I mean the in between Depot Park there, in that connectivity area. Just figure out how to get the ones that people want, get a good variety of them, and then keep adding on to them as you go along. But start out with a decent variety of them. That's what I'd say.
And Fred, what specific area were you talking about in
The parking lot where the kids go do all the donuts there
The
behind
Casa
the
Grande.
Casa Grande parking lot.
Oh,
Yeah,
because that's owned by the state,
yeah,
and
they
actually,
would partner with you.
and most of the Depot Park is actually owned by the county.
Yeah, we could call that the donut parking lot from now on.
Travis,
We'll work on my colleagues. I think people will come around, and we'll just give it a couple weeks to let
Sure.
things stop burning.
what's the time frame in terms of the budgeting process, in terms of we have to propose this for the city?
Well, I mean, their fiscal year is what, July 1st. And the other thing to think about is the possibility, we weren't able to pull everything together for that rebate program. So that's probably about the first week of August next year. And the way that works is you present your project proposal with cost estimates, and they'll say, looks good, and they'll set aside the money, and then you have, I think it's like, excuse me, 9 months to actually complete your project, and then they'll give you the money. So to go back, some of those projects that got approved are not going to be built, probably. And so that's why, in part, I think they don't talk about it. So we won't know until they're actually built, because some of them are just gonna, you know how construction development is like, well, we're not going to do this now. It doesn't make sense. So that's a possibility. And I will say that they had set aside, I believe it was like $1.8 million. And within the first, I believe, 10 days, they got $3.8 million of requests. It was a little bit more popular than they had projected. And next year, the funding goes down to like maybe 1 million. And then the third year, like 750,000. So those are kind of if that's the approach, is that type of funding cycle, that's the cycle. And if it's, I don't know if that would be I'm getting out of my area of expertise, so I have to be careful, but I don't know if that would be a capital improvement, then that might be the July 1st, but I really don't know.
Well, it seems like that's good timing, because you could put it in the budget. You could put in what you would estimate would be the reimbursement, because it sounds like it wouldn't be 100%. But I'm kind of with Fred. Like, I want to see the city kick down some money. I mean, this is, we have a big budget, and this is high priority. So, and I like the way Fred put it, is start with different ones and add them on, and I think that's great. You know, I like the idea too of maybe don't put the DCs because we're slow Noma. You can go slow and spend some money, buy a pizza. So no, I think it's good. I think you won me over, Fred. I think I like the Depot Park option now more because it's another small grant program. If there's already a small grant program from the county, it's kind of doing the same thing they're already doing. So maybe this is what we want to do.
So how can we put together a recommendation from all the different things that we've said here? Do people have any more to add, or are we in the consolidating our recommendation phase here?
I think we're in consolidating.
Certainly could call for a sense of the recommendation as a starting point. Is there something you don't want to do or something you absolutely want to do? Those are the three options we presented, but
looking at.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I talked a lot. You go ahead.
I'm looking at Travis's the agenda item summary. I'm voting for number 2. For Depot Park, the city should take over responsibility of the existing electric meter. In doing so, by the installation cost to supply the electricity to the chargers would be substantially lower. By installing 2 L2 stations with 4 chargers, only 4 spaces would be required for charging. Anyway, I would like to propose that. Actually, I guess I'd like to make a motion that we propose the city number 2 in the agenda item summary.
And can we propose that, keeping in mind that Travis could look into the option David Morrell had brought up, where we wouldn't have to deal with the electrical and gas situation, and it would just be a solar panel situation?
sure, I could, if that's what's voted on, I could look into that and come up with some specifics and report back at the next meeting.
And I'd also like to make a friendly amendment that the city make an effort to get at least 2 of those DC fast chargers somewhere on city property and centrally located to put the city on the map with that, so that we have a range of stuff here going on, so that on our web page and on our materials that we're right out front and ready to meet the need. It seems to me that these small numbers may not meet the need, but you know, maybe when my gas vehicle dies, they'll maybe have electric trucks. I don't know. But it's hard to get a sense of how fast these electric vehicles are really going to come on, because it's a total change. I mean, we all have grown up with gas vehicles, and it's almost crazy to think of a world where you wouldn't be able to rev your engine and all of that. But I guess it is coming, so we have to be ready.
So that's a friendly amendment. So Commissioner Metzler decides whether he wants that or not.
Well, I made a motion, nobody seconded it.
That's
So
true.
I second it.
can I rescind my motion and make a new motion?
Yes, because it has been.
Emily is going to rescind her second.
Yes.
Yeah, I
We
rescind.
can
So-
do that.
I would like to make a 3-part motion. Number 1, that we recommend the city. Number 2, in Travis's agenda item summary. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but everybody can see it. That's the first part of my motion. The second part of my motion is that the city pursue solar power EV charging stations that are not connected to the grid. And number 3, the city make a goal of having high-speed DC chargers in the future.
I
Second,
second that excellent motion.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
Sandy and David both leaped in.
It's a co-second.
It's a co-second. Second prime.
Or cosine for our pre-calc person.
That's it. That'll be your trig for tonight.
So discussion?
I think we've had plenty.
Okay. And public comment?
Thank you, Travis.
Chair Alabak?
Yes, will there be any public comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
Okay.
Okay. Nothing from the invisible man? Okay, well, roll call vote.
Commissioner Alabak,
Aye.
Commissioner Blattner,
Aye.
Commissioner Funke,
Aye.
Commissioner Metzler,
Aye.
and Commissioner Morel.
Aye.
Okay, the tripartite motion is unanimously carried.
Okay. Well, that was good. Now we'll move on to agenda item 4, CSEC members' reports and comments. Anyone? Matt?
I have a couple of comments. I just wanted to, regarding the previous item, I just wanted to, just to get on record that, having charging stations would help us goes along with the city's bicycle and pedestrian master plan, because having people come to Sonoma and charge their car means that they're not going to be driving in circles looking for a parking place. It's going to get people out of their cars, walking around Sonoma, and increase tourist traffic, and that's good for the economy. I just wanted to make another comment regarding this bicycle and pedestrian access. I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but those of us who live near the high school, access to Nathanson Creek bike path is closed because of the construction of the athletic fields. They have blocked all 3 bridges across Nathanson Creek, and you can no longer access Nathanson Creek bike path from the west because of the construction. So I just want to make that comment. It's just very disappointing because that makes it, that gives us that much less bicycle and pedestrian access, especially with COVID. A lot of people are out there walking their dogs. That's one of the only forms of exercise and recreation people can do. And now that is cut off for us by the school district, fencing off those bridges. I did communicate with the school district, and they said the reason they did that is because there's been a lot more vandalism on campus at the high school because of the construction, I guess because of not having students on campus. Anyway, I also want to make one other comment, which is I think I may have mentioned this at the last meeting. Once COVID is over and we resume large events, determining our greenhouse gas impact has been, our ability to determine greenhouse gas impact has been limited because we don't know where people who come to Sonoma for events are coming from. So we don't know what their carbon footprint is. I have spoken with a couple of people about the idea of getting, when we have the large events, getting volunteers, maybe from the high school, the ecology center, everywhere, volunteers who could walk around during the event, doing a simple survey, asking attendees greeting them and asking them where they're coming from. I think that we need to make a goal of gathering that data. Where do people come from for these large events? Because that is our huge greenhouse impact. And I just thought, I've been at events before where somebody walks up and say, hi, how you doing? Welcome to this event. How'd you get here today? Did you drive? How far did you come from? Did you fly? Did you take a bus? Whatever. So I think that would be fairly simple to have a few volunteers go around for a few hours with a clipboard gathering that data. And that's the data we need for determining greenhouse gas impacts of events. Then those are my comments.
David.
As the troublemaker who started much of that whole document data development about large events, I'm loving the idea of getting volunteers with a clipboard to walk around and get some more data. It'll be as good as we get, and it'll get better over time. I would share a couple of comments and reports to my fellow commissioners from the Ecology Center perspective. You may know the latest fire took a pretty big hit on Sugarloaf Ridge State Park. We're estimating about 75% of the park burned. Parts that did not burn 3 years ago this time took a big hit. But we are now just announcing a double your money contribution program where the board of directors has come up with sufficient funds to match donations. And we've announced that earlier today, and we're beginning to see donations already coming in to do trail repair to help us make up some of the staffing problems of having lost all that revenue. On a related matter, Mr. Chairman, I would, and Mr. Travis, for our agenda next time, I would very much like to put on the agenda a discussion of SB 1383. Where is the city of Sonoma now, and what is our thinking about organic waste management going forward and the state mandates that will be coming? So I don't know if that needs to be a motion or whether that's appropriate under comments, but I would very much think it's timely to get back into that game.
Yes, because if you're recommending to agendize something, then you have to make a motion, has to be seconded and approved.
Is this the right time to do that in
Yes,
the
it
meeting?
is. Yep.
Then I would move that the next meeting of the CSEC include a comprehensive discussion of the city's current approach to dealing with Senate Bill 1383 organics management.
I second.
that.
We can have discussion. So on that particular issue, I'm scheduled to give a full briefing to the city council on SB 1383, which is basically moving the organic waste, moving all the organic waste out of trash and manage that accordingly. It's tentatively scheduled for November or December. So I just, yeah. So hopefully I can get something for the next meeting, but it may have to be delayed. But I'll just apprise everyone on that because I have to pull in a lot of stuff together. I can give just a general briefing or a comprehensive one. So I will do something as best as I can for the next meeting. I just wanted to give you a full sense of what's happening on that.
The best you can do would be just fine.
Okay.
From the point of view of me making the motion, I just wanted to make sure this commission keeps that front and center as a major issue coming forward, especially post-COVID, whenever the hell that is.
Okay. So we have to have a roll call vote because it is a motion on agendizing a briefing by staff on 1383 short-lived climate pollutants. So Commissioner Alabak,
Aye.
Commissioner Blattner,
Aye.
Commissioner Funke,
Aye.
Commissioner Metzler,
Aye.
Commissioner Morel.
Aye.
Okay.
Any more comments or
Commissioner Fun-
reports, David?
Oh, no.
Sandy?
I have a couple. Yeah, I have a couple. One is a parks person. I just want to remind people that there is recorded medical evidence that being outdoors helps your mental health. So if any of us are struggling, please go for a walk. Don't try to walk on Nathanson. I know what you're talking about, Matt. I live over there. That was really weird to see those gates go in. But walk everywhere else. It reduces cortisol levels. It will reduce your cholesterol, and being outdoors also will reduce your blood pressure. So if people are stressed out, please do go outside. Along those lines, the master plan options are now posted for public comment on the North Sonoma Mountain Park and Open Space. So I would love some of our commissioners to take a look at that. There's 3 options posted along with a story map. So you can check that out on the county park website. Take a look. We'd love your comments. There's a comment card you can fill out. And then I just wanted to ask a question, Travis. Are we going to get an update on the trash can recycling thing, or do we need to agendize wanting to know about that?
No, I gave a brief update last meeting, but basically, right now, it's been postponed in part because it requires matching funds, but it's proposition, the Prop 68 funding for the receptacles, it has to be spent by 2024. So right now, it's being postponed for consideration till 2021, which would be the new receptacles and water bottle filling station. And so that's the status of it right now.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments?
I have a question, Travis. When you said, could you get a match in funds? Could that come from a private donor?
A match in funds for
the receptacles, for getting the receptacles in?
I don't, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I know that I believe this, I don't know. I believe that there's a matching funds requirement. And from what I understood, that was moved from the budget for this year when the COVID financial crisis hit the city. And so the project was postponed, knowing that as long as it's completed by 2024, the Prop 68 funds are there. And that's all I know about it. So I can't answer your question, but if it's something you'd like an answer to, I can look into it.
Because otherwise we have the ugly trash cans until 2024.
Well, that's the end date that would have to be done by. Hopefully, it would be done sooner. Yeah. Yeah. But if you want me to research that question, I can and get back.
Okay.
Is that it? Do you want me to?
Yes, I would. Because
Okay.
I think that I would be worthy to, reach out to some people around town and see if they wanted to be a match for that.
Okay.
It could be a naming opportunity, Kimberly.
No, I'm thinking not me. I'm thinking no. Yeah, your name on the trash cans. That's good. Yeah.
That's it.
Right by the mouth of it.
Yeah.
Well, seeing no more commissioner reports or comments, Travis, would this be an appropriate time for me to make any comments on the sustainability website?
Absolutely.
I got a few.
I was going to say some good comment. So some overall comments would be good if there's any specifics about this word or that word. If those could be sent to me by email, that would be much more helpful.
Okay, well, I'll send you some stuff by email then, because I have some specific comments there about content on there.
But if you have some general,
No,
things.
Jen, mine are all specific comments.
Okay, if you want to say it's awesome or something, that's cool.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's totally great. It's good to see that up. That's been a long time coming.
In all honesty, it took a while, and the person in charge of websites has been pulled away dealing with COVID. She also, like myself, is part-time, and it was just one of those. Unfortunately, is staff capacity.
Yep.
Yeah, that's just the reality that many of us are facing right now with some of these issues.
Okay, well, I'll just close this commissioner reports and comments with saying it's good. Well, go ahead, Matt.
I'm just wondering what's the status of filling the openings on the commission?
Regrettably, there were, except for our new amazing youth representative, there were no applications submitted for the openings. One can only chalk it up to COVID. Maybe people just were interested, but the openings remain. But you're more than welcome to go out and recruit people.
So those remain open, so people could submit an application basically any time then.
Actually, I think they have to reopen the application period because it ended, I believe, August 24th. So they would have to reopen it because there's a process it has to go through. So it's not a rolling open, yeah. But that's something that could be requested.
Well, like to take this closing moment to say it's good to be back with you all and to welcome Alex here as our new youth commissioner, and look forward to meeting with you all again next month. We will be meeting next month, Travis.
Chair Elbach, I'd like to remind you that agenda item 5 you skipped over.
I'm still on.
Oh,
I'm still
okay,
on
4.
staff
Okay.
comments. No,
Okay.
I got that in mind.
My
So,
apologies. When you said
so-
we're meeting, it sounds like you were saying goodbye.
No, I just wanted to. We've had a month off, so hopefully we will be
Okay.
meeting again next month, so
Yeah.
we can kind of get on our regular schedule. But good to see you all again. And now I'll move to agenda item 5, staff comments and announcements.
Okay, thank you. So one of the items that was voted to be agendized at the last meeting was presented by Fred on changing the mission and scope of the CSEC. And so I wanted to give you an update on that. It was not on tonight's agenda, and I'm going to explain why. So regarding the change in the mission or description of it, the actual current mission is codified in Sonoma Municipal Code, which is SMC 2.48.010 to 0.30. So it specifies what the mission is, the meeting requirements, membership, so forth and so on. So as an aside, any changes will have to require a new ordinance, which is a multi-step process at the City Council. But regardless of that, the decision was made to postpone this agenda item until sometime after the final adoption of the climate emergency resolution. So back on June 1st, 2020, City Council meeting, there was a general agreement in that climate emergency resolution that there would be a new joint standing climate action committee, which would include members of the CSEC and the City Council, that would be created. At the meeting back on June 1st, there was verbal agreement to create an ad hoc subcommittee to develop the charge and scope of the new joint standing climate action committee. I'll pause right there for a second. Is everyone kind of with me on that? It's a little confusing. But the need to create that ad hoc committee to do this because it's a joint commission, which is a little bit different when you have 2 elected officials and 2 appointed officials. So it's just a little bit different, so they have to work through that. So the approval of the creation of the ad hoc subcommittee will be the next step. So that wasn't actually finalized in the climate emergency resolution, but that has to go forward to the City Council. That likely is going to be part of the climate emergency resolution. They'll approve that, and then that subcommittee will then create the scope and charge of the joint standing committee. At that point, then consideration should be given about changing the mission and scope of the CSEC. So it's really just a timing issue. And what the City Council will be looking for is 2 members from the CSEC to serve on that joint standing climate action committee, should it be approved by the full council. Does that make sense, everyone? Any questions about that?
Can they have a joint commission before they've approved the cannabis resolution? Just kidding.
Staff will reserve comment on that. So, but I just want to explain the status of that, and it's going to be this process, and so hopefully they will be approving that fairly soon and moving forward with that. They have already appointed the members of the ad hoc committee, which is Councilor Hundley and Councilor Agamonte. Okay, so at Monday's City Council meeting, I'll be giving a presentation on the nearly 6-month update on the progress towards accomplishing the city's climate action environmental sustainability work plan, which was approved back on May 4th, 2020. That work plan contains 16 actions designed to reduce carbon emissions and enhance environmental sustainability. In there was 4 energy actions, 2 water resource actions, 3 transportation actions, 4 waste reduction actions, and 3 miscellaneous actions. So that report I'll be giving on Monday, and it will be included, the PowerPoint presentation will be included in it is included in the agenda packet, which I'm not sure has been posted yet. It's probably posted tomorrow sometime, so you can take a look at that. Also, at Monday's City Council meeting, the zero waste resolution, which incorporated suggestions from the CSEC, will be presented for discussion and potential action. And that's also on Monday. That's all I have. If you have any questions, and I have a very brief special events coordinator update, but are there any questions?
Thanks for plugging away.
Sure. Okay, here's the special events coordinator update. There are no events planned for the remaining of 2020, and the city will not be processing permits for 2021 until the county public health department gives the green light and guidance. There are no other updates at this time related to special events. Probably what you all expected on that. And that's all I have.
Any further comments on Travis's report? Does Wendy have a staff report?
No,
Staff comment?
nope, she's not here. She
Okay.
turned it over to me, and I'm just happy things have not collapsed on me.
Well, you did great, Travis.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I will move on to agenda item 6, which is to adjourn the meeting. You all have a nice rest of the evening.
Okay,
All
good to
right.
see you all. Thank
Good
you,
night,
thank you,
everyone.
Travis.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Thank you.
Bye.